Yeah, I mean, it's very large scale. 6 gigawatts of capacity is equivalent to the output of 6 nuclear reactors. It's enough power for several million homes. The average size of a data center is about 300 to 500 megawatts. So it is a sort of multi-year massive commitment. And, the market has faded a little bit in terms of AMD share reaction. But it's quite a big bet by Meta that the AMD's technology, in particular its AI accelerators, the chips that will be used to run models and what we call inference, are effective. But the warrants bit, I agree, very interesting. Like, is it or is it not circular financing? I'm always up to debate it.
And of course, we know that Meta announced a tie-up with Nvidia just last week.
Yeah.
So this is about Meta also diversifying its partners in this build-out. How much do we know, can we guess that Meta is spending on this partnership, on this transaction?
Well, on this AMD one, the way that Lisa Su and AMD put it is that it's double-digit billions per gigawatt. So it's tens of billions of dollars over the 5 years. Remember, AMD is a distant number 2 player with respect. It's all of its revenues are about $10 billion a quarter, which includes the data center part. Nvidia's just data center part is more than $50 billion. So, they've got some ways to catch up. But yeah, it's very significant scale. And on the Meta side, right, Mark Zuckerberg said it next to the president. He's committing to spending about $600 billion over the next 5 years or more. And, he's always said that, like, if they misspend, quote, $200 billion here or there, the risk of not spending that money is greater for them. Wow. So the stock's like down 0.5 percentage point right now. But yeah, most people, this is consistent with what we'd expect from Meta.
Ed, what I'm seeing as I'm coming up to speed in all things AI and the lingo that's used in that industry, when Meta agrees to buy AMD chips and computers, okay, I get that. Where does the whole concept of measuring this in terms of gigawatts and power, how does that work into the story?
Oh, that's a really smart question. Basically, like, data is transferred via electrons. There's work in more nascent fields of transferring data via photons, light in other words. But inside the server, that's how data passes through electrons. There is a heavy electricity draw to power the whole system, not just to run the GPUs and run the computations, but also like everything involved in cooling and heat dissipation. Like we're talking about electricity, and that's why it's measured such. And like to go back to Scarlett's earlier question, like this is 6 gigawatts. Just between Meta and AMD. But Meta has plans to install like tens of gigawatts by the end of this decade. And then beyond that, like hundreds of gigawatts. Wow. Completely different scale to what we've been talking about. That's why we track so closely in parallel what is happening with grid and energy infrastructure. Because the burden is it's not, you can't even compute it with the human brain.